I can't get into some like YouTube beef war thing with you, okay? I haven't got time to do beef. And also, as a Christian, I don't do beef.
It's time for more Beef with Ed. In the first part, we were beefing about me. He was trying to figure out what I'm all about so he could get back at me about something, but he couldn't find anything, so I told him everything. Maybe now he'll find it easier. Towards the end, he mentioned that atheists say they lack belief, and then for some reason, he gave an argument for why we should think that theism is maybe true, which of course is not excluded by not believing it's true. Kinda confusing what he thinks the link is, but anyway, that's where we're starting. Beef thrusters to full power.
If 93% of the world believe in something, it's most logical to think that maybe it exists. Not that it exists, but maybe it exists. Not to just shut it off.
Okay, maybe it exists. Believing it doesn't exist, or not believing it exists, doesn't mean you're discounting that maybe it exists. That's not how belief works. Yes, maybe all kinds of things. I'll give you maybe on pretty much whatever you want, including things that far less than 93% of people believe. How many people believe it really is not relevant to this point. But accepting that something is maybe true doesn't mean you believe it's true. In which case, I wonder if you'll give me maybe in return. Maybe I'm right and you're wrong. I don't expect you to think that's the case. I'm just wondering if it's on the table.
I'll give a quick analogy.
Well, I understood what you said, so I don't really need it, but okay. I like analogies, they're fun.
If you're from Canada, say you're from Toronto,
Ugh.
and there's a McDonald's there, 93% of people in your city, including you, have been to that McDonald's.
Wow, that is one hell of a successful McDonald's. Good job.
And you're talking about it. And I say to you, that's baloney. You're just a clown. You're an idiot. Doesn't exist. You'd be like, yeah, it does. I've been there. I've experienced it.
You mean like that thing Christians do sometimes? Including you in your original video, which was entirely about this, where they say genuine non-belief doesn't really exist, atheists know God in their hearts and they're just denying it, and then atheists are like, well, I've experienced genuine non-belief, so you're wrong. This scenario of yours is quite analogous to that scenario, isn't it? But anyway, about the general concept of what you're talking about. Sure, someone comes at you with no arguments, or frankly even with them, and you're firmly convinced that you have personal experience of the thing. Sure, that's going to be convincing to you. The McDonald's is God, I'm the theist, and you're the atheist. The atheist comes in and tries to ad hom the theist out of believing in God. Why are we making this about the atheist convincing the theist? I think you should watch some of my videos and see what actually happens in them. Who starts the conversation trying to convince who?
And then I said to you, you guys are all just stupid, you're thick, you're low intelligent, low IQ. People today, like me, we're so much cleverer than people in the past. You only believe that McDonald's exists because your father believes that McDonald's exists.
And therefore it doesn't exist, I assume was the intended conclusion of that? Okay, atheist comes along with poorly formed arguments. Gotcha.
And then you're like, well, hang on, actually, my father's an atheist and my girlfriend's from a Buddhist family. She believes in Christ.
I thought this was about McDonald's. Why are we talking about God and Jesus? You're supposed to be sticking to the analogy.
And the most intelligent man in the world is a Christian.
I'm going to assume that's not a Chris Langan reference.
You know, it's like, it's got nothing to do with IQ. It's got to do with experience. Okay?
I understand that you have all kinds of personal experiences that you find very compelling, that are confined entirely within your head, and that I can't access. And I understand that other people have the same thing. Now, without getting into why I find that unconvincing, which would be a little overlong right now, I think what we should do is just accept that I do in fact find it unconvincing, and that you find it convincing, and that I don't have to accept as evidence that you find it convincing, and you don't have to accept as evidence that I don't find it convincing. Okay, I have in fact considered these questions, and for me the needle is still stuck at maybe, but I quite strongly doubt it. I don't know what to tell you. If that's a problem, then we'll just let it be a problem. If you're going to question my intentions or motivations with that really doesn't hold any value to me. It doesn't change anything.
And then if I said to you, well, no, actually, I can rationalize your experience away. How do you know it even exists? Or some baloney like that. You'd be like, hang on, you're the one supposed to believe in logic, yet you're just coming out with these alternative theories.
Right. Alternative, unexcluded possibilities exist. Ones that, in fact, I would consider to have a higher probability. Am I supposed to just ignore that? Is that what logic is? But yeah, Ed, fine. Believe your experience. This isn't about you. Believe the experience and whatever you want to believe about its origin. The problem we're having is about me believing your explanation for the origin of that experience, which is far from just a small claim about you or your mind. It's a claim that must sit upon an enormous stack of other beliefs about all of reality. And I'm sorry, but I can't just suddenly believe all of those things because you had an experience that you interpreted a certain way, or because a lot of other people did. You're not being reasonable if you expect me to do that.
If I said to you, well, no, actually, I can rationalise your experience away, how do you know it even exists? Or some baloney like that. You'd be like, hang on, you're the one supposed to believe in logic, yet you're just coming out with these alternative theories. You know what I mean? Like what you accuse us of. Anyway, I hope all that makes sense.
Accuse you of? That's literally what you did in the first 2 videos of yours that I responded to. They were all about coming up with alternative theories for why atheists don't believe you, or at least claim not to. Okay, yes, I accuse you of doing it because you did it. It's on videotape, Ed. Now, yes, you're right. It's easy to psychologize your opposition. It's easy to say, well, what's inside your head is obviously this and that, and it's obviously because of this and that. I agree, people fall into that trap all the time. This is kind of the nature of disagreement in general, in fact. People on my side of this issue, of course, do that sometimes, and as we've seen from your behavior, it certainly occurs on your side, but it also occurs on both sides of pretty much every issue. However, I don't think I'm psychologizing you by just not immediately accepting theistic explanations for religious experiences. I think it's very reasonable to at least withhold judgment about the real cause of the thing, and to point out that there are other possibilities which need to be explored. There is no requirement in logic that I don't do that, and that I immediately accept your explanation on the basis that you find it compelling. I understand that the straw dummy atheist that you've created here is speaking in far stronger terms, and I understand that there are instances where that occurs, but that doesn't have a lot of relevance to the here and now, does it? I hope you realize that when I called you an idiot at the start of my first response, that was in reference to one very narrowly specific thing. And that thing was you doing the thing that now you're whining about me doing, even though I didn't. So whine it yourself.
But anyway, I'm not ranting.
Just rant, Ed. Enjoy it. So then Ed plays some more of the video, and in this part, in the original video from him, he asked, haven't you ever had one of those moments where you see something and you think, this is too beautiful, this can't be random, this can't be an accident, this is something divine? And I point out that no, that's an idea from within your religion, or at least some kind of theistic concept that's indirectly influenced by religion. That you finding something beautiful is an indication that God did it. That's simply not an idea that I'm going to have without some sort of religious influence. But not only was I not raised in your religion, or any religion, I've never even believed there is a God. So I'm not just going to randomly reach the conclusion, this is divine, without some sort of further reasoning.
Yeah, but right, what he's doing now is he's trying to pin it on being raised in my religious ideas, as if this is some sort of indoctrination. So what he's trying to say is it's like religious people only believe this because they've been indoctrinated with it.
To believe that there's a necessary logical link between I find something beautiful, therefore it was necessarily created by a god? Well, whether it's indoctrinated into you or not is not really the point, but these ideas about which human feelings and experiences imply God are ideas that were shared with you at some point, obviously. That's not even like a broad theistic idea. That's, if anything, a very narrowly specific theistic idea. If you want to argue that it's not solely religious, fine. But regardless, it's an idea that's coming from the general theistic context around you. And when I point out that I wasn't raised in your religion, I mean it more broadly than just your religion. I was not raised in a context where beauty implies God's existence, or intelligent design of any sort. This is not my default way of thinking. Drawing this link just because it apparently seems obvious. It doesn't seem obvious. This is what I'm trying to express to you. You say it as if it's the most obvious thing in the world, as if this is a conclusion that everyone will follow you to without any chain of reasoning presented, but that's not true. We are not all like you. That's what I'm saying to you. I'm not trying to express something about you, Ed. That's not the point of what I'm trying to get at. I'm not trying to tell you, you were indoctrinated. I'm telling you something about me, and if you were smart, you would adjust your approach to fit that. That's why I'm telling you. Read between the lines and you'll see that it's intended as advice.
But that's simply not the case. Like, I look at a sunset and it makes me feel a lot different to looking at that wall. And it's like, what? I don't know if you believe in evolution or whatever, but like, how does that serve in terms of like survival of the fittest or purposes to do with evolution? Anyway.
Is that a question or an argument? Yes, features of human psychology are interesting, sometimes complicated, sometimes confusing. Whether this very specific question currently has an answer that you or I would find satisfactory is not really the point. The point is that something you don't understand doesn't imply God. You just say things, and then you say, well, the answer is obviously God. The idea to take this absolutely absurd leap to that conclusion occurs to you for some reason, and I'm just telling you, I don't have your background. The idea to do this would not occur to me in a million years. I don't have a background that makes me think that the answer to any question about reality or about the human is just automatically God. But you obviously do. As far as I remember, I never said the word indoctrination. That was your word. If you don't like that word or even that concept, let's just keep it out of the discussion. But you do have a tendency to lean towards this answer, which I don't. And I'm sorry, but at least to a significant extent, that is based on our respective pasts. Anyway, he continues to play the video, and I say, well, the way the sunset appears from Earth, in general terms, the shifting of colors and stuff, is not random. It's an inevitable fact of what happens to light when it goes through the atmosphere at that angle.
Okay, so what he's doing now, or what you're doing now, is what a lot of atheists do. And again, I say all this with respect. I'm not trying to like have a go at you guys or put you down or anything like that. But you're explaining how.
Well, no, I'm responding to the concept of it being a random event. I'm not really explaining how it works. I'm saying it's not random that it works.
And it's like, but before the how, there's something that created it, and there's a why.
The distinction between how and why is another religious idea. Why here, I'm pretty sure referring to the intention behind its existence. The idea that prior to something occurring, there must be some intention for it to occur, and some reason for doing it, is a religious idea. Or if you like, at least theistic in the broadest possible sense. Again, that's not an idea that I have. It's an idea that you have from your past. You see it as so obvious that the idea of someone not accepting it is almost unfathomable, whereas I see it as incredibly non-obvious. The idea that this must be a feature of reality, I see no justification for that. I don't make this distinction between the how and the why because I don't see any reason to think that it reflects anything real. You need to understand, Ed, you're dealing with someone extremely different from you. I understand the difficulty in wrapping your head around that. I really do, sincerely. I struggle with that myself in the opposite direction. But you need to understand that making arguments that make sense to a person who already accepts theistic assumptions are not going to work for me.
And this is like ration, logic, atheism doesn't explain why.
Sure. Atheism and rationality and logic don't explain why, with what intention, the universe and the sunset and the human perception of beauty were created. You're 100% right. Your mistake is just thinking that I'm going to think that's a problem. That's not a bug, that's a feature.
It's so interesting because I watch a sunset and I'll say that's really beautiful. I can see God in that. And then you guys would just explain to me how it happened, as if then that explains away the God hypothesis. But I'm like, well, no, that doesn't. You're just explaining how it's happened, like science that we've learned or discovered.
Okay, well, no, again, the conversation was about whether this phenomenon is random. I was explaining that it works by the angle the light's coming in, just to point out that, like, it's not random that the light looks red. God or no God, that is a function of the nature of the system. It's not random, it's entirely predictable. You're not talking about what I was talking about. Now, on this other topic, though, that you're trying to push us onto, you're right. If I explain how the sunset works, that doesn't imply God doesn't exist, or that God didn't make it work like that, or indeed that God isn't personally moving every photon himself. I agree with that, but that wasn't brought up. But again, you say you're going to see the sunset and go, that's really beautiful. I see God in that. Okay, well, just as explaining how the sunset works does not falsify God, God being an unfalsifiable hypothesis, you finding it beautiful doesn't verify God. You want me to accept that it does, for seemingly no reason other than that you find that satisfying, but I don't accept that, because it doesn't. Don't try to hold me to epistemological standards if you expect me not to hold you to any. Then he plays a little bit more of my video and fades out randomly in the middle to show this slide. Question for atheists who reject theism due to evolution. I don't, so this question's not for me. Moving on.
Nor is it accidental, unless you mean it in the significantly less common sense of non-essential, which I don't think you do, because you didn't call it accidental, you said by accident, which implies a mistake, which if there's no person involved...
It's just playing on words. Again, this is a trick by the atheists. It's like...
How is it a trick by the atheists when I try to figure out what the hell you're even saying, Ed? I'm trying to address what you say, but you don't speak precisely, so I have to untangle it. But you're so defensive, you're like, no, he must be trying to trick me with fancy words. You realize the word accidental has more than one definition that could fit in the context in which you used it, right? So I'm reasoning through, I'm presenting my reasons for why I'm interpreting that word in a certain way. This prevents confusion, and it makes it more likely that I'm addressing what you're actually saying. And then if I'm not, if I got it wrong, it at least makes it clear why it's wrong.
Instead of actually talking about the real thing, you just start playing on words, like nitpicking at words.
It's not a nitpick. If I'm going to talk about the real thing, I have to first identify what the real thing is. I'm not a mind reader, Ed. I don't just magically know what you're thinking. It's up to you to tell me specifically what you mean, and if you don't do that, then I have to try to puzzle it out. I'm sorry if that bothers you. Not my problem. Then he plays that clip continuing where I say that the reason he says it can't be by accident is because he perceives it as beautiful. But I point out that that doesn't actually have any bearing upon what the cause of it was, or whether it was accidental in any sense. There's no obvious logical connection between these concepts.
Yeah, but the thing is, bro, it's like, again, like you look at a beautiful painting, you know that there's a painter behind it.
Yeah, that's because it's a painting. Paintings are made by humans, so the most likely explanation when you encounter a new painting that you haven't seen before is that a human made it. Of course, other non-human origins are possible, but that's the one you'll most likely assign the highest probability to, on the basis of what you've learned in your life about paintings as a category. It's not the beauty of it that makes me think a human made it. Just the mere fact of me looking at it and going, ooh, I like that, doesn't show that it was created by a human, let alone anything else. The interesting thing about this, by the way, is wouldn't this imply that a painting that I don't find beautiful is less obviously made by a human, regardless of any other similarities between its characteristics and those of the beautiful painting? Or is there possibly some other distinguishing factor that you're really relying on?
Like I said earlier, like why would... Like, we all look at a sunset, apart from maybe the odd person. I'm sure there's someone in the comments who'll be like, it's just a sunset.
I mean, it is just a sunset. It's interesting, but it's fine. I'll give you people think sunsets are pretty.
But when you look at it, it's beautiful. Like, what purpose? If this is all just evolution and just random and like there's no purpose, no point to anything.
Well, the purpose and the point, the why of why organisms have features, is that those features are in some way useful for survival or at least not detrimental. Or not detrimental enough to have been bred out of the population yet. You might say there's no purpose to these things in the sense of someone ascribing a purpose to them, but there's a reason why they are the way they are. It's not just completely pointless. It's also not random. Natural selection is not random.
Why does a sunset and a sunrise fill us with joy? Why do we, like, our endorphins, whatever it is, start pinging like, oh wow, that's amazing?
Look, if you want, I could hazard some guesses based on some things I've read in the past, but you're just going to tell me, oh, you're explaining the how, and then discount it. I could explain it perfectly, airtight, in evolutionary terms, based on how these adaptations aid in survival, and you would just say, but that's not the why. Because if I don't jam God into the answer unnecessarily, you're going to act like it wasn't answered. But I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. I'm not a theist, Ed. I don't explain everything with God did it. And if that's the only thing that will satisfy you, as you've pretty much said so far, then there's no point even talking to you about this from a non-theistic perspective. And fine, if that's how you want to do things, that's up to you. But we're back to things that you should be talking about with people in your church. Because the kind of conversation you want to have has no relevance to someone who doesn't already accept theistic assumptions.
The most logical thing is that there is an artist behind that beautiful sunset.
I don't think this has anything to do with logic. You've already basically said that you require this conclusion from any explanation. You won't accept how without why. So the answer is God. Any answer that doesn't include God is immediately rejected out of hand as insufficient. And then you're like, well, logically, it must be God. No, there was no chain of logic that led you to that. That's a condition you've just arbitrarily imposed. If that's not true, and there is some kind of logical chain that leads you to this requirement of a why, then you didn't present it in this video, so it's not obvious to me.
There's different colours. Like every night you look at it, it's different, isn't it?
Yeah, I kind of mentioned that already in the clips that you showed, but you don't want explanations for that. Someone could explain exactly how that works on a technical level, and you just say, well, who created the universe? Why'd they do it? Okay, fine, I'm not going to talk to a brick wall.
And it's different colours, and it looks like that there is an artist behind it that wants to give you, as a person, joy.
This is you reading things into it that you want to read into it, Ed. I don't see it like that at all. It doesn't look like that to me. It doesn't imply that to me. You're just talking about you. That's fine, but it's not an argument. You're just telling me about your religious ideas.
And every day that he's doing that sunset just for you, it's different for every person, and he wants you to feel joy. Just like if I was to do a painting and I'd want people to look at it and go, wow. It just mirrors that, doesn't it? It's the most logical thing.
Eddie, I don't think you know what the word logical means. You seem to just think it means that you think it's obvious, or that it rests on your assumptions.
So we're less than a minute in, and already you're speaking.
Yeah, I'm 5 minutes into your video already, and I'm just like, what is this guy talking about? I mean, sorry, I shouldn't say that. It sounds like, a bit disrespectful, but it's just a different worldview, isn't it?
Yes, and it's okay if you disrespect it or disrespect me, but I'm glad that you at least do acknowledge that there is a different worldview here. However, it's very, very clear that you're having a huge amount of difficulty truly wrapping your head around the full set of implications of that. Again, we can speak personally if you wish. You can come to one of my hangouts that I do with my patrons. We can have a voice chat, and I can try to make things more clear to you. You can ask questions, whatever needs to happen, because I'm very willing to work on this confusion with you.
What I gather by the comments, okay, and there's a lot of mockery. I look at this video of this here, and respect to you, mate. 140,000 people, you're earning a good living. You've probably got a fantastic life in Canada. You're probably going skiing and hunting bears or whatever.
Yeah, at the same time. Downhill ski bear hunting. It's the #1 pastime up here.
But okay, I've got to be really careful what I say, but your picture is a dead tree.
Dead. Yeah, that's what it wants you to think. What do you think all that schmuck bait hanging off of it's for? Watch your back, man. Don't get outsmarted by a tree.
There's a man all in black with a red and a blue eye. Now, I don't know what that means. Maybe it's something relevant.
Nope.
There's a moon in the background with something stuck in it.
A moon. I like that. Leaving the question open as to which moon. Put in the comments which moon it is. Oh, and there's nothing stuck in it. That's, of course, the reptoid base, which is a gigantic pyramid with an eye on top. I mean, never mind.
And then some sort of temple thing.
Huh? I don't even know what you're talking about. There's no such thing there. You already named all the things that are in the scene. Other than the hill nips. Everyone misses the hill nips.
Everything's red. It's just very gloomy and dark.
Red? What are you talking about? It's blue. The sky on Earth is blue, Ed. Guy's delusional.
And then these videos are just so negative.
Okay, I will admit, starting off the video telling you your argument is about as impressive as an army pissing their pants on the battlefield probably was a bit too harsh. Funny, yes, but a bit too harsh. Other than that, though, I don't think it's that negative. I'm just arguing. You made a video claiming that atheists are just denying that they believe in your God. You intentionally presented it in an inflammatory way. And considering that, I think I was pretty reasonable in response. Spare me the shocked Pikachu face that anyone would have an unkind word to say about it. Now, maybe you just find the idea of anyone responding to you in disagreement inherently negative. Maybe the only positive thing is to stroke you gently and congratulate you on your beautiful, wonderful, perfectly rational ideas. I don't know. I don't know what would seem positive to you. Would I have to pretend that I don't think what I think? Because that would be lying, which is what you were complaining about in the first place. Now, this video is better. I'm still criticizing it, of course, but it is a massive improvement from the original. And I think that my tone is significantly kinder here, so you can refrain from policing it this time.
The video and the comments are negative. There's nothing uplifting or life-giving or positive or engaging.
What would you like, Ed? What are you hoping for? That rather than getting to the point and telling you what the issue of contention is, we wrap you in a Snuggie, give you a teddy bear, give you encouragement and make you feel special? We're two grown men with a disagreement. This is a cause for contention, for argument, for debate. We have an issue to settle with each other. There is indeed a time and a place for compliments and encouragement and uplifting, but what would make you think that that was the time? I don't see in what way, at that point, you had earned more.
Or engage in like, oh yeah, I can understand where you're coming from. You know, like maybe, 93% of you of the world believe in a higher power. I can appreciate that, you know, that you might have encountered God in certain ways, but it hasn't happened for me. It's just all like just negative.
Your video was called Your Heart Knows God Even If Your Mind Denies It. The description says, if this video, I think you mean in this video, I discuss how an atheist's heart knows that there is a God, even when their mind can try to dismiss him. An example that you used was, it's like when you try to deny the fact that you ate the last slice of pizza, but you can't ignore the greasy evidence. You brought up Romans 1 for fuck's sake. You lied and accused others of lying. And you might say, no, that's not what I was doing. Except that in the comments you admitted to both of these things, and said that they were a hook to get people to watch the video. When people expressed annoyance about it, you laughed at them for being triggered. And you said the video was intentionally antagonistic. You yourself basically said that the video was exactly what I interpreted it to be. The negativity I saw in it was there. You say you put it there on purpose. And then despite all of that, you complain that you got a negative response. You put negativity out into the world. I responded in kind, and so did they. But now you're acting like you deserve to be coddled. Oh, I can appreciate that maybe you've encountered God in certain ways, but it hasn't happened for me. You expect me to hold myself to some higher standard than you bothered to hold yourself to. No, I won't accept my tone being judged in this hypocritical way. Take the log out of your eye first, Ed.
And just pessimism. There's like no joy.
There's tons of joy. I was cracking jokes all the way through that video. You were complaining about my background too, as if that's pessimistic too. Gloomy. There's jokes there too. You just don't know what they are. I understand that pretty much everything about me is way outside your frame of reference, so I can understand your confusion, I suppose, to some extent anyway, but I don't think the problem there is on my end. Also, I don't think I'm a pessimist, and I don't think I expressed pessimism in my video. Maybe you can share an example of what you found to be pessimistic.
Anyway, I say that with respect. Please don't, please don't be upset by what I'm saying. I'm not trying to... maybe I went a bit too far with that, but anyway.
Look, in and of itself, it's not a problem. The problem is it doesn't seem honest. It doesn't seem to reflect the reality of what happened here. You put out negative videos, and this happened with both of them, by the way, and people respond in a negative way which you intentionally provoked. You come at other people with all kinds of accusations, trying to tear them down. You mock them in the comments over and over. Why are you triggered? Why are you mad? Why are you so negative? It's just a hook, bro. Ha ha ha. Why are you mad? And then you act like the problem is on the other side. Look, I can be harsh. I can be negative. I don't suffer fools lightly. And I do have a lot of viewers who are similar. That's true. And part of that is probably contentious personality. Anyone who's interacted with me in any format probably knows this. But on this subject in particular, the problem is that we've been dealing with this kind of stuff for a very long time. Everything that you say I've heard before, and so have they. Christian anti-atheist propaganda is a non-stop tsunami. It does test the patience. But nevertheless, none of this would have come in your direction without your instigation.
But yeah, perhaps if I find myself curious about why humans find things nice, I'll turn to a scientific explanation for how humans work.
Oh my goodness, that is so depressing.
What, thinking that if I'm curious about a phenomenon, it might be worth investigating the phenomenon instead of just muttering the word God and then pretending I know something? How is exhibiting actual curiosity more depressing than just dropping every cool thing in the God bucket and ignoring it? What are you talking about?
That's like such a depressing thing to say, bro. You'll turn to science.
Okay, how? Why? Explain, because this makes zero sense to me. If I want to understand a phenomenon, I don't just want to make up an answer. I want to actually know the answer, based on reasons. Making up the same non-answer over and over and pretending like I believe it is not somehow uplifting. Actually learning stuff is. I get it. You're happy with what you do. That's wonderful, Ed, but I'm not you. I don't work like you. I can't be satisfied just pretending to believe your tiny, pathetic, empty worldview. Just like I couldn't be satisfied living with my head in a fishbowl. There's nothing there. Your world has no answers. It has nothing to answer. It's a denial of all of the infinite depths of reality, in which only the surface of the waves is allowed to stay. You live in this barely detailed sketch of an alternate reality. There's no truth in it. There's no life in it. I cannot imagine the level of intellectual suffocation I would feel if I somehow jammed myself into that worldview. No, but actually engaging with the world and finding interest in it, immersing oneself in it, enjoying it, looking closely at it, appreciating it, understanding it, discovering things. Depressing. Again, screaming across a chasm at each other, right? Obviously, you see something in your worldview that makes it seem cool, that makes it seem not depressing, which I absolutely do not see. And likewise in the opposite direction. There simply is no agreement to find here. Now, you'll probably say, these things you're saying, these are emotions that you're talking about. Yeah, I'm a human, I have emotions. Your reasoning still sucks, and that's why I reject your reasoning. But I also think your worldview is as deep as a puddle, and as such I feel pity for you being stuck in it.
Oh my goodness. Sorry. Scientists, I love you. I appreciate you. Like, if it wasn't for science, I wouldn't have this. I appreciate you, respect you.
Oh, just stop, man.
And if I find myself curious about why there's a sunset and why it looks the way it does, yeah, maybe I'll turn to scientific explanations for that too. Why does the sky turn pink? Gee, I wonder if science has anything valuable to say on this topic.
Bro, have you... Okay, okay. Do you, serious respectfully, do you have, like, imagination and, you know, a zeal for life, you know, travel? Do you, like, listen to music and appreciate the beauty in it? Like, do you have any romance in your life, you know, like, or is everything just science?
Why do you find these mutually exclusive? Yes, if I want to understand why the sky turns pink, that's a scientific question. That doesn't mean I don't find the sunset nice. That has nothing to do with whether I appreciate things, find them beautiful, like doing things. It's so bizarre that you think this is some kind of either or. Genuinely, where is that coming from? All I'm talking about here is getting true answers about things, not about what I do with those answers or what I do when I'm not pursuing those answers. Other things in my life matter, aside from just truth, but truth matters too. I don't cease to care about whether what I believe is true because I like what I see in front of me. Why must the acceptance of beauty come with a disinterest in the truth? Why does the appreciation of beauty require a lack of curiosity, or indeed substituting God in the place of curiosity? You need to understand something here, Ed. Curiosity, real curiosity, wanting to understand how things work and the way things are, is not a rejection of the world. It's not a lack of appreciation or imagination or romance. It's the expression of those things. It's what you do when you actually care about the world and not just about God and death. And as such, another thing you should understand is that sunsets are not uniquely beautiful, to me, or more beautiful than any other time of day, or anything else around. The sense of beauty that you get when you see the sunset because, I guess you think it shows God more than other stuff does or something? I don't know. You never specified. Is what I have all day. I look at everything closely. I have curiosity about what it is, because it's all just as amazing, and I want to know something about it. I don't understand why supposedly feeling this sense of beauty and awe needs to be paired with apathy about it. That doesn't even make any sense. It should be the opposite, surely. If you actually have interest in this thing, surely you want to engage with it. Look closely at it. Take time with it. Understand it more deeply than just a quick glance over the surface. In the same way that if you see a beautiful woman and you want to marry her, maybe you should talk to her first. Understand something about her, other than what's on the surface. Isn't that the difference between a committed romantic relationship and just lust? The one is just seeking out this instant gratification, this spike of sensation. Ooh, pretty, I like that. And the other is trying to dig deeper, to really understand, to build some genuine connection, even making some sacrifices to enable that, which of course is what learning and science often involve. To me, you saying that you don't do this sort of thing, that you don't have this commitment or this interest in understanding, shows that you don't actually care about the thing that you're looking at in itself. You don't even care about it enough to have any curiosity about what it is on any deeper level than how it looks to you and the immediate gratification it gives you. How can you really connect with something, really internalize it and feel it as what it really is, if you refuse to learn what it is? If you'll only acknowledge it at its most superficial, and you refuse to imagine that there could be anything of value, even one level deeper than that. What you're doing is the death of imagination, the death of romance, the death of appreciation of things, the death of the connection and communion with reality. The way you're talking, it makes you seem like your view of the world is so desolate. There's literally no question worth asking other than the God one. There's nothing worth understanding beyond that. No curiosity in anything, no interest in anything. No way to take that beauty that you witness and turn it into something deeper and more personal, and more reflective of the real nature of what you're looking at. The sunset is not a painting. There's so much more to it than that. There is so much there to understand. It's right there waiting for you. There is so much more depth of appreciation that you could reach if you cared, but you're stuck in this stagnant swamp of a worldview where somehow none of this matters to you. How is it depressing to care and learn about reality, to see such beauty in all the world that it drives you to pursue understanding to get closer to it, to better integrate it into yourself? No, you only love something if you understand nothing about it. From my perspective, Ed, that is such nonsense that it verges into madness. You know, you talk like you have such interest in things, such imagination about things, such a romantic view of things, such love and care for the things in the world, but how do you show it? You don't engage with them. You look at the surface level and ignore everything else about them, to the point that you won't even consider meaningfully engaging with them, even when the question is what they are and how they work. You just flatly refuse because going beyond the surface level is not imaginative and romantic. Whereas I value them enough to engage with them at least on a deeper level than you do, clearly, and then I hear you telling me I should stop, and instead of looking at the things that I appreciate, I should dedicate myself to looking right past them, ignoring basically everything about them and how they work, trying to see God instead. Imagination. You only seem to be able to imagine one thing.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Let's continue.
Yeah, I don't see what else to do. It seems very obvious that there is no way for us to see eye to eye on these issues. We are fundamentally just way too different.
Your heart knows God exists, even when your mind tries to deny it.
Yes, I know. You already introduced the topic at the start. That was 1 minute ago. Believe it or not,
You're literally like the head teacher of a school. I mean, look how upright you are. It's like, "Argh."
Contrary to popular belief, that's not actually me. That's a cartoon.
Yes, sir.
Headmistress Logicked. Sit down! Explain the sunset, boy!
Could it be possible? Now, I'm not saying you. I know in the comments I got so many people angry at me because they're saying I'm lying and that I'm telling them what they think. And like, okay, my video title was a hook. It was a
Oh, you say that here too. Maybe I didn't need to show the comments.
hyperbole, over generalization. Technically, that is a lie, I guess.
Oh, I had no idea.
And if that is the case, then I take that back. My goal wasn't to upset anyone.
Okay, kind of weird that you went off in the comments like that, but okay, alright, fine.
When I did that video, I was getting 5 people watching my videos to do with like atheism and stuff. So I wasn't really bothering with them, you know what I mean? I wasn't reading over them and rewriting them and thinking about what anyone thinks or cares about it.
I can sympathize with that. It does sound weird, but I kind of did the same thing when I started. Sometimes when you really don't think anyone's going to watch something, you don't put that much care into it. You're just sort of speaking into the void, so what does it matter, right? Now, the thing of intentionally saying false things to hook people in, I don't think it really addresses that, but I think it does have some relevance to other aspects.
Obviously, you got latched onto it. I've got all these people now watched it and they're upset with me. If I was to do the video again, I probably would reword it because, you know, the Bible's very clear about us not lying.
Okay, well that's fine then.
And I'm not saying that to like virtue signal or I'm better than you or anything like that. I don't think I am better than you guys.
Well, no, you're saying that because you see the Bible as your source of truth on moral issues. So yeah, that's fine.
But just on that subject of could it be possible, and comment below without getting upset or offended, Just using your logic, your science.
Use your science? I'm really not clear on what your understanding of these words is.
You're watching all these videos on Christianity. You're watching all these videos and you're watching this guy. And Logicked, you started this channel because maybe there is something in you that does have an interest in whether or not there is a God.
Well, yeah. It's an interesting question, no doubt, with great relevance to many, many different aspects of the world and the universe and reality in general. That's one of the reasons it's an engaging topic. So yes, many of us are interested in what the answer is to that question. Did you think otherwise? Why? Is it just because we either haven't answered yet, or we've answered no? In what way does that imply disinterest? You're not only interested in a question if you answer the question yes. Other answers are valid. That shows no less concern for getting an answer. As you said, the question is whether or not there is a God. And I really don't think anyone would claim that we're not concerned with getting an answer. That's what we're talking about here. That's what we're always talking about here. That's what my channel is. If you thought people were pretending otherwise, I think you've really severely misunderstood the situation.
But from a Christian perspective, how we see like people like you, not you in particular. I'm sure you've got lots of valid reasons to be an atheist. But we believe that, say you got two people. One's got big biceps, one's got small biceps.
Which one am I? Can I be the big biceps guy? I want to be the big biceps guy.
The one with big biceps works on his biceps. The guy with small biceps works on his legs, okay? So say he's got big legs.
Never mind. Can I be the big legs guy? I want to be the big legs guy.
So you've got one guy with big legs, small biceps, one with big biceps, small legs.
Can I be half and half?
When the person who's got big biceps tries to use his legs, they're very small, he finds it really hard. And then the person who's got big legs but small biceps, when he tries to use his biceps, he finds it really hard.
Wow. That is a really good point. I never would have thought of it like that.
You guys have got neurological pathways and you've got certain muscles in your brain or whatever that are very strong to do with logic and reason. There are people in this world who aren't so strong in that area, but they're very strong spiritually. Now their world, because it's different to your world, it doesn't mean that their world does not exist. And it doesn't mean that your world, because you're good with logic and reason, is better or superior to their world.
Depends on the task though, right? Spiritual muscles. I don't think I'll even start with this.
It just means that your spiritual muscles are very small. Therefore, when you try to use them, which I'm sure you have tried to use them.
I genuinely have no idea what that would mean. You were talking before about imagination and romance and enjoying music and stuff. Is that spiritual muscles? Because I've done that stuff.
You didn't really get anywhere with it.
Where specifically would I be trying to get? And why would I be trying to get there? I am curious about this concept that there's something real spiritually to achieve.
And you defaulted back to what you're good at and what brings you joy and pleasure, and that's using your logic and reason.
Okay, well, thank you for at least acknowledging that that can be joyful and pleasurable, despite hammering on for this entire video about how joyless and depressing it is.
And these people over here who are not so good with logic and reason, or they might be good with logic and reason, but they've got these spiritual muscles, they can tap into that really easy, and they can get joy, and they see things that you don't see. But it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
True, them seeing things that I don't see doesn't mean those things don't exist. Also doesn't mean they do. That is a big thing the brain does, is create perception. What's your take on hallucinogens? Machine elves, real or imaginary?
And it's beyond me why you mock them.
Well, because as you said, this belief is not based in logic or reason. It's based on feeling and seeing things inside of their mind. But then they try to take that and contend with me in the field of logic and reason to convince me on those grounds, and they got nothing. That's why. And again, I mentioned the video where I answered Almondo's 10 questions about my atheism. In that video, I think I said that Christianity probably would have been better off if, instead of trying to present itself as a competing evidence-based hypothesis, to compete in this realm, it just leaned into the mysticism, into the spirituality, into the visions and all that. Go flex your spiritual muscles and stop trying to convince people in a domain where, I'm sorry, but it just doesn't work that well. If anything, even bothering to try to make the religion compete in this space is a weakness. The people who care about this stuff, who really care about it, whose primary reason for believing things, doing things, is on these kind of grounds, are on average going to be quite a lot less receptive to this stuff. Because again, so many of us are stuck on the opposite sides of the chasm from each other, screaming across it, trying to communicate, trying to understand each other, and failing, assuming we even care to understand at all. You don't see me defending my views to you on some kind of spiritual level. It wouldn't make any sense, and it probably would not come off as very satisfactory to you, would it? It probably wouldn't sound very compelling.
Because the most logical thing is that if these people experience something you don't, the most logical thing is that it could well exist.
Yes, religious experience is real. Does it confuse you that I say that? Because it shouldn't. Think about it for a second. Think carefully about distinctions between concepts. But the reality of those experiences doesn't necessarily tell you what you think it does about the cause of those experiences. As is the case in many domains, the most intuitive answer is often not the correct one. Maybe it is, but that needs to be determined. For me to be convinced that some conclusion is the correct one, someone's gonna have to do some work. And if you find that bothersome or unfair, it doesn't matter because it's none of your business. It's not your standard, it's mine. I think it more reliably leads to the truth, so that's just how it's gonna be. And you can do whatever you want.
But the crazy thing is that you guys listen to all the new atheists, you listen to Dawkins, you listen to Logicked and that, and they just come up with some theory, and then you're like, yeah, that's it.
Okay, if I say something about the way something might work, that should be taken as me saying it's a possibility. It's usually in the context of some theist saying, oh, obviously that's impossible by any natural means, therefore it must be God. And then I'll say, well, here's a possibility that's natural. What about that? It's pretty rare that I'll bring up an answer and say, that's the correct answer, period. So if you're going, yeah, that's it, don't do that. It's usually not even the point. Now, Ed, you were very insistent through this video on the idea that people should accept the possibility of things, that maybe things that they don't believe are true. When you were doing that, you were appealing to the popularity of theism. I don't know, maybe that's the only case in which you think we should accept the possibility that something that we don't already think is true. Or maybe you think that the possibility of truth is a democracy, and it only becomes a thing if a majority of people accept that something might be true. Who knows? You didn't really say what the reasoning was, you just kind of said 93% of people think this is true, therefore it's reasonable to think it might be true. But I think that there are other possible explanations for religious experience, other than the actual reality of the supernatural and God. And therefore, at the very least, I would propose that it's reasonable to not leap to conclusions. Would you agree with that? Because if I'm being honest, you seem a little bit offended that I'm not taking that leap.
And it's because you have confirmation bias. You're looking for a reason not to believe in God.
All right, and I am going to cut this off there because that seems like a good place to start part 3. So we'll come back for one final part, which will consist of Ed saying very silly things and repeatedly annoying me in different ways to a significantly higher extent than you've seen in either of the first 2 parts. Mostly because he keeps on questioning my attitude and motivations the whole way through, which is not appreciated. I hope to see you there. Before you go, subscribe, like, consider supporting. Thank you for watching, and see you later.